Hey, all right, so here's the deal. Today what we're going to do is we are going to give a new direction, okay? Now for some of you, some of this stuff might not seem new. For most of us, it's going to feel very new. We're giving a new direction to our groups in Revolve. So you've got your handouts, and you'll see the PowerPoint up on the screen, so you'll actually be able to follow along. I'm going to ask you to do your very best. Please do take notes and take this with you. This is going to be a tool for you in the future. The goal of today is that we do a few things. Number one, I want to make sure that we are fully aware of what we want to do and what we want to accomplish in our groups in Revolve, as well as I want you to walk away with tools to be fully capable of accomplishing that mission and that vision, okay? So we will be out of here by 2:30. It is 1:13 right now, and you can count on that. We'll do our very best to have you out of here by then, okay? The thing with Revolve groups, we're going to call this a new vision. I guess is what I'm going to just call this. This is a new vision, new direction, in the sense that we want our groups in Revolve to be life-changing, okay? This is the single greatest opportunity that we have to change lives, okay? We could do a lot of things in ministry, but if the groups is an area that we neglect, then we're really missing an opportunity that God has for us. We have students who are readily coming into this ministry, ready to grow spiritually. They're open to that, and they want to do it. This is an opportunity for us, so we don't want to waste that, okay? So with this vision, the goal is that we can give you new tools and really challenge you in some new ways to be able to make a greater impact in the lives of young teenage kids. So at this moment, I'm going to ask you to whatever, if you're doing anything else, put it aside for a moment, and we're going to jump right in, okay? Now, let me hit our mission and our strategy. This is familiar language for you, should be. Our mission through the life groups in Revolve is to help children and students to find their place in the story of God. That is the mission that we have in Next Generation Ministries. That means between children's ministries and student ministries, that's our goal. That's our target, okay? Our mission at the church is to invite people to find their place in the story of God. But people for us is children and students, right? So we're going to bring that in there, okay? This is a big deal to me. A survey recently was done of 20 to 29-year-olds, and when surveyed, they were asked about their church involvement, and 95% of these 20 to 29-year-olds said that they attended church regularly when they were in middle school. Unfortunately, today, only 55% say that they attended in high school, and only 11% actually attend church today. It's what we call a slow fade. That's what we call that. Slowly but surely, people become less and less involved in church. Well, that's a problem for us because we believe that church is an integral part of your life. And I don't mean church as an event, or church as a service, or church as an organization. I mean church as the people. So when you attend church, that's merely something that you're doing that's showing that you're interested in gathering with other Christians, or even if you're not a Christian, you're interested in finding out about it, right? So we believe that that's important. But if people are gradually falling away from the church, then that means that people are gradually falling away from God, and that's a problem, right? So I believe that you, as leaders in groups of Revolve students, have an amazing opportunity to be able to respond to the slow fade and actually prevent students who would be dropping out of church later on in life. You actually have an opportunity to prevent them from doing so. You, through your relationships, are able to do that. Remember that our mission is to help kids and students find their place in the story of God. I want to put this a little bit differently for you. Our mission to invite kids and students to find their place in the story of God must equal change. Must equal change. And here's why this is important. Because a lot of times we are afraid of change, right? And most of us would say, oh, I'm not afraid of change. But once something changes or something topples, we go, what's going on? Oh my gosh. Even right now, we're talking about, I'm about to propose some changes in our life groups. Okay? We have the option to reject that, or we can embrace it because we know that it's great for the mission. The mission that God has called us to has to challenge us to constantly come back and ask the question, what has to change about what we're currently doing? So every several months, we need to stop, take a look, take a step back, look into our ministry and go, does anything need to change? Does anything need to change? And so that's what we're doing today, okay? To accomplish our mission, we must have some sort of change. Hopefully good change, right? All right, let me look into the strategy. Your mission is where you're wanting to go. Your mission is what you're trying to accomplish, In football, your mission is to get the ball into the end zone, right? But you have a strategy to make that happen, right? You have plays, you have people in certain positions, you have all these things. That's your strategy, right? Well, we have a strategy in student ministries. If we want to invite students in our ministry to find their place in God's story, well, then we need to have a strategy for that, right? And we need to have a strategy specifically related to our groups. So we're going to talk about that for a moment. Primarily, when it comes to our strategy, it has to do with partnership with parents. It's a big deal to us. This is a big, big piece for our ministry. When it comes to what we're trying to accomplish, we want to make sure that parents know that not only are they valued, but that we are partners. We're partners together. So we call this, we call this orange, okay? That's what we call our strategy. Our strategy is called orange. This is what I mean by this. The church is the light of the world. Revelations talks about the church actually being like a lampstand, right? And so we assign the color yellow. And the church, which is you, are meant to be a light in the darkness. And Jesus actually says that you will be a light in the darkness. Says that nothing can overpower that darkness, right? That the light that you are is actually because of Jesus living within you, right? If you look at John chapter 1, it talks about Jesus being the light and the darkness cannot overcome it. Well, then when Jesus is a part of you, then you become that light, right? So the church is the light of the world, biblically, right? Now the family, that is where the heart is. This is where love, this is the central place of love in a child or a student's life. And we believe that the light of the world and the love of the family have to work together. And if you put both of them together, then you get orange. Yellow, the light of the church. Red, the love of the home. Put them together, you get orange. We believe that if we put those together and we work as a ministry with families, that we'll be more effective. And there's the main reason why we believe that. There's a couple reasons. Number one, I believe strongly that two forces working together are stronger than two individual forces working separately. Two forces working together is stronger than two individual forces working separately. Let's put this another way. The church has an average of 40 hours in a year. 40 with a student. So a kid that's in your Revolve group, right? If you're a 7th grade leader or a 6th grade leader or an 8th grade leader or whatever, you get 40 hours in a year on average. That's typical. That's also sad. 40 hours in an entire year to try to make an impact. The family has 3,000 hours to invest into that person's life. You get 3,000 hours. If you're a high school student, you average you're going to get about 3,000 hours in a given year with your parents. You're going to get an average of 40 hours in a year with your church. Now, you guys are exceptions to that rule. You guys are leaders, you guys serve, but that's for the most part true for people your age. Okay? We need to tip the scales. We need to tip the scales. It's huge. It's very, very important for us. Let me look here. Make sure that I'm doing this perfect. Okay. Your purpose as a life group leader, let me talk to you. You guys are all life group leaders, whether you're an assistant leader or you're the primary leader. You're a life group leader. Your purpose as a life group leader is to disciple through relationship. Discipleship in the Bible had nothing to do with Bible study. I know that's crazy. But when Jesus was hanging out with his 12 disciples, discipling them, he spent 3 hours spending tons and tons of time getting to know them, letting them get to know him, and it was the relationship was where all the learning happened. And so with you, the relationship with your girls or guys in your group is where all the learning is going to happen. That's discipleship. So your goal as a life group leader is to disciple your kids through a growing relationship with them. Okay? So we'll talk a little bit about how you do that. Okay? Let's go into, we got some thoughts on expectations, and I'm going to hand it over to Danny, and he's going to talk through some of that.
Cool. So we talked about how, as a life group leader, your group is to disciple through relationship. That sounds simple, but how do you do that? You know, it's one of those things that it's like, sometimes we say these things, but we want to give you tangible things how to do that. And there's 4 things. If you can be these 4 things, you'll be an awesome life group leader. You need to be faithful, available, supportive, and teachable. And I'm going to walk through each of these things. So the first thing you need to be is you have to be faithful. That doesn't just mean just faithful to the ministry, but faithful to your students, faithful to who you are in Christ. If you aren't faithful, then you're just going to be all over the place. 1 Corinthians 10:31 says this. It says, whatever you eat or drink, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Be faithful. So here's the thing. There's a couple things that we want you to watch out for in being faithful. Being faithful is easy, but things to watch out for I think sometimes are helpful as well. So the first pitfall, we're going to call these pitfalls. We'll have these kind of all throughout the expectations and the pitfalls. So wins and pitfalls is what we're calling it. The first pitfall is not asking for help. It sounds stupid, but you get so wrapped up in what you're doing that you don't ask for help. We are a team, first and foremost. We are a team, all of us. So it's not just you. We are all together. If you need help with anything, ask for help. It sounds super simple, but doing it is much more difficult. So really there's a couple tips that happen. The first tip is pray before arriving. Prayer is a powerful thing, and I think we underestimate the power of it a lot of times. Prayer is huge. Pray for your students. Pray for yourself. Pray for your team members. Ask God to be able to talk through you and give you the words to say and the things to do. It's huge. Also, attend services. Not just services here, but services other places. It's a simple concept, but you need to grow as well. If you're not growing, how can you help other people grow? So simple things, super simple things, but things that need to constantly be in check, right? So the second thing is to be available. If you're not here, you can't really be a good leader. It sounds easy, but again. So the first pitfall, if I can speak, the first pitfall of availability is being late. Our 10 o'clock meeting is a big thing for us. That's where you kind of get geared up, get pumped up for the service. We pray, you figure out what's going on. If you're not there for that, you come in behind the 8 ball. Doesn't mean you can't be a good leader and not do it, but that 10 o'clock meeting is huge and totally helpful. And the second tip, or the first tip that I would give you, is follow through with what you do. I think a lot of times we jump in and get the first step, and then we don't follow through. And the truth is, as a good leader, you want to follow through with that. Being available means you're always available. It doesn't necessarily mean you always have to be here, but it's huge to be, when you're here, you need to be here. Does that make sense? So yeah. The third thing is supportive. Be able to be supportive to your team. You want to be a good leader, support your team, because then they're going to support you. And then it kind of builds everybody up, and it makes us stronger as a team and as leaders. Pitfall is complaining. And it's something that we do. I do it, and it's really easy to get into, you know. And it doesn't necessarily have to be complaining and yelling about a game or whatever it is. It could be as simple as, hey, we're going to play this game today, and you've played it before, and you go, it kills momentum, and it kills energy. And what happens is the whole energy of your group goes down because of that. Tip is encourage. Here's my tip about encouraging. If you don't like something, the less you like something, the more you encourage about it. And the truth is that'll help you through. If you hate doing something, my case in point is when I work in the office, I hate cutting things because I'm terrible at it. But what happens is I find myself, if I get sent to cut stuff, I encourage whoever's helping me cut, or if I have to do it, I have to encourage myself on it. But if I pump myself up about it, then I can kind of go through it and it's okay. So encourage, encourage, encourage. Encourage everybody around you, encourage yourselves, and just pretty much you can't go wrong encouraging people too much. Tip number 2, celebrate. When things go good, celebrate them. Celebrate them right then. Celebrate the wins. It's huge to look back and go, man, that was awesome. Look at the success that had. You know, it kind of goes along with encouraging, but it's more, celebrating is after the fact. Go, that worked awesome. That was great. And that's going to help you be supportive. The last tip is invite change. Change is something that we don't like. It's, you know, you can ask Phil O'Pree. Phil hates change. We change stuff, and he's like, quit changing things on me. But he's always okay with it, and he's always willing to go along with it. Change is going to come, and change a lot of times is good. Most of the time it's good. We just have to accept it. The last thing is be teachable. This is a hard one. It's hard sometimes to admit your faults, but it's important because the truth is if we're not teachable, we're not growing. So the first pitfall is missing your trainings. How are you going to, what? Like right now, yes. Those of you who aren't here. You're lucky we're recording this. No, I'm just kidding.
We love you.
We do love you. But seriously, trainings are huge because how are you going to be taught if you're not letting us train you? If you're not here, we can't train you. So being here is important. So the first tip, show up. Show up to your trainings. Attend your trainings because that is how you are going to grow. That is how you are going to be a better leader. The second thing is research. If there's something that you are struggling with or you're not sure about, go look it up. Go check it out. Learn about it, you know, and research. Not only just things though, research your kids too, your students, because that's huge. Find out what they do. Find out when their games are. Find out about your students. Research who they are, where they live, so you can be there with them.
A big piece of this is research about youth ministry. Research things about ministry. Find out, you know, learn. Go to Berean and pick up a book on building relationships with teenagers, you know, things like that. We're going to hit 3 major resources that I highly, highly recommend. Okay? So we'll talk about that in a moment.
Well, and the truth is if you're researching stuff and you come up with sweet ideas, bring them to us. Let us know about them. Don't let that research go to waste because we love new ideas. You know, and the truth is you guys are as leaders, and this is your ministry just as much as it's ours. So shape it and make it yours. The last part is accept critiques. This is a very, very hard thing for a lot of people. We are not trying to tear you down. In fact, we are trying to make you better. It is the opposite. And sometimes even if we say things in love, if you're not accepting that, then it becomes really hard and you don't really become a teachable person. And it makes people just want to let you fall on your own and then laugh at you when you fall down. Whereas if you accept critiques and then you fail, it helps people want to build you up. I mean, if you're trying, it helps people want to build you up. It's okay when you mess up, whereas instead of making people angry at you, you help them help you, I guess is the best way of saying that. So yeah, so those are kind of the big things as far as a fast leader. Being faithful, available, supportive, and teachable. Those things are super huge. So yeah, now we're going to move on to the next portion. I'm going to turn it back over to Brian. We're going to talk a little bit about the weekend.
Okay. There are 3 primary areas that you need to think about in terms of your role as a life group leader. And we'll hit all 3 of them today. The first one is the weekend experience. And this is a big deal, obviously. The weekends is the #1 opportunity for you to build relationships with students, to open doors, to conversations and things like that. We're going to give you 2 more tools before you leave here so that you can actually do it even more effectively than you already are. To this point, the weekend experience is really the only area that you have ever been challenged to lead, right? So, and that was going to change today. That's part of this. When I say we got a new vision for this, that's going to change starting today. That said, it doesn't change how vitally important the weekend really is. So, let me kind of work through this. I'm going to walk through what a weekend could look like. Okay? What it could look like. And I just want you to imagine for a moment how amazing a weekend experience really could be in Revolve. Revolve is already a very, very strong ministry, and it really has everything to do with you guys. You're the ones that bring energy to it. It is probably a ministry that very well may have more momentum in it than any other ministry at our church. That's really, really exciting. Now, we have 2 choices when that happens. God has blessed that, and God has done something and begun to move in the hearts of kids' lives, and in ways that maybe God doesn't always choose to do. But for whatever reason, He chose to do this in Revolve. We can do one of 2 things. We can either A, take that for granted, or we can B, we can take advantage of the opportunity that God has given us. God has given us a prime opportunity to be able to steward. You guys know what that word means, right? To steward what He's given us. When God gives you an opportunity, He's asking you to act out of obedience and do your very best with it. And so that's what we're gonna talk about. Imagine for a moment coming to Revolve, and Revolve being the absolute best, and I believe it is for some students, the absolute best experience of that kid's week. Okay, we'll take questions at the end. We're going to do that.
Well, I haven't heard it.
Yeah, make a note of it, okay? Bring it up, because I'm going to want to hear that. Imagine this being the best possible experience of a junior high student's week, and think about the things that have to fall into place for that to actually happen. We have chosen that there are 3 main things that we want to do to make the weekend great. The first thing we do is we spend some time on equipping. So that's why, if you're an adult leader, we ask you to be here at 10 o'clock sharp, right? If you are a Leader Trek student, I'm going to challenge you guys, if you haven't already, if you're not having Leader Treks on a given week, be here at 10 o'clock with us, okay? This is the best opportunity we have to kind of set up, you know? How many of you guys have ever watched like sprinters, like in the Olympics? You ever watch what they do? You know what do they do before they begin running? What do they do?
Warm-ups.
They warm up, right? Why do they warm up?
So they don't hurt themselves.
So they don't hurt themselves? Why else? If you do not warm up, what happens?
You don't run as fast.
You get cramps, you what?
Don't run as fast.
You don't run as fast. That's true. You will not perform as well as you could, right? At 10 o'clock when we say, hey, this is our time to equip, that's our warm-up. That's our warm-up. That's our chance to really get ready and get going for the morning. And there's a few things that we do in this. The first thing we do is we cover the topic. We make sure that you, as a leader, know what's actually happening. I mean, that kind of matters, you know. You want to know what the big idea is, what the main point is. So that when it does end up getting to a teaching time, you're not being blindsided. You shouldn't be just learning. You should be kind of teaching, you know. Not necessarily like a teacher, but you should have enough familiarity with the materials that you can walk along and be able to do really well. You might be a person, and some people are like this, you may be a person who's able to just show up at your group and just kind of wing it, but let me tell you, you are not meeting your full potential. If that's what you're doing, you're not going to reach the full potential of what your group time really could be, right? But if you will come and warm up, you're going to do really well. You think about a sprinter in the Olympics, if they don't warm up, are they still fast? Yeah, they're really fast. They're just not as fast, right? So what I'm saying to you, come to the warm-up, because at that warm-up, that's going to help you be a fast leader. I'm going to use that. Okay, so number 2, we cover the activities, okay? We cover the activities. This one's important. I'll tell you where this one has come to be an issue before. We'll go into an activity during the service, a game, and beforehand we would have said, all right, leaders, you're all in on this game, and we really need your help on this. So here's what you're going to do. We're going to start this game, and you're all going to stand up, and you're going to do this thing as soon as the game starts. But then there's like 2 people that aren't there at the warm-up meeting, and when it gets to the game starts, and some of the leaders stand up, and then there's a couple that go, what's happening? You know, and it puts you in an embarrassing position. I want to make sure that if you can, try to be at that warm-up so that you can cover the activities, right? So you know what's happening. That really, really matters. The third part is prayer, and it's probably the most important, and it's an area that we haven't always been good at, but I want us to kind of challenge ourselves when it comes to doing this together. That we spend an inordinate more time in prayer, you know, opening the doors for our students. Okay, and so I want us to do that, and I want us to pray courageously and pray boldly before God for Him to move in the lives of our students and in their hearts, and to be able to set up the stage in our ministry to be able to see life change. Okay, 10:15, the door's open, right? The focus of this is relationship. 10:15 is all about relationship. From 10:15 to 10:45, that period of time that we call hang time, may actually matter more than the service. I say may because I don't want to quite go that far. The service is very, very important. But the reason why I say this is, if you don't build a relationship with your kids, why in the world would you ever expect them to respect your opinions when it comes time to discuss a topic? I'm going to say it boldly, right? If I am never there, and then all of a sudden I show up and I say, don't do that, you need to do this, why in the world do you have any reason to actually give any credence to what I'm saying? As a leader, you have to earn the right to be heard in a kid's life. Some kids will just listen to you, just because you're older, but not all of them. Not all of them. They got to get some trust first, you know? And you got 30 minutes every single week that we're giving you to build some relationship. So take advantage of that. You want to focus on 3 different things during that time, during that hangout time. Number one, welcoming guests. Welcome guests. This is huge. Be aware when those doors open, whenever you see that light flood in the room, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You feel the light flood into the room and you know that somebody just walked in. Look, if it's somebody you don't recognize, go introduce yourself. Here's the deal. I know that some of us aren't as outgoing, and I get that. Okay, I'm just gonna, you will never hear me criticize you, just for the record, because I get it. Okay, I understand why that can be an intimidating situation, but I'm gonna encourage you to do what you can to take the initiative to introduce yourself to a student, particularly girls to girls, guys to guys. Okay, I'm gonna encourage you to do that because they won't. When you're a guest and you come to a church, a lot of times your first experience is scary, you know? And so, I want you to, gotta go? Yeah. Okay. Your first experience is really scary, and so you gotta make sure that this is something that isn't so scary. And if the first thing you do is you introduce yourself, you take away that fear, you know? How many of you guys have ever been in a room with somebody and they never say hello? And you never met them. You never even met them. And then it's like the longer time goes by, the harder and harder it is to even introduce yourself, right? That's how it is for one of these kids. When they come in the room, the longer they go without anybody saying hello, the harder and harder it is for them to make that next step and actually say hello. Don't just welcome them and say hello. Welcome them. Take them under your wing. Pull them in. Say, hey, let's go play some foosball, or let's go hang out. I want to introduce you to some of these people, you know. Be that person that takes the initiative for them. Number two, connect to your group. Connect to your group. Your group will be here. Know who your students are, okay? That might take time, but find out who they are. And as you find out who your students are, find them, peg them down, and introduce yourself to them, and keep coming back to them, okay? Wear them down with how friendly you are, okay? Number three.
You want the single most biggest relationship builder in somebody's lives is connecting to your group. You take those 5, 10 students, how many ever they are, I don't care if you don't care about anybody else in the room, you take those people and you learn their names and you learn what they like, you learn what they do, and that's the biggest way to earn respect with them. When they come back in and you go, hey, how was football practice? Whoa, you actually cared enough to remember that I play football, you know? Oh, hey, how was volleyball? Same thing, hey, how was your horses? You know, that kind of stuff is huge to students because they're gonna go, they actually do care about me.
Yeah. The third piece in the hang time is to build energy, okay? That's important for us. Something we don't necessarily spend a lot of time really focusing on, but I think if we were to be intentional about this, think about and imagine with me for a moment what it would be like if you got the energy. Hey guys, I need your attention right here. Think about what it would be like just for a moment if during that hang time you are being intentional about building the energy, and the energy is getting really exciting, and kids are getting pumped up about the fact that this big service is about to happen. It's going to be awesome, you know. Spend time building that up. And just go, man, I can't wait for this morning. Say things like that. Think in your mind, what are things that you can say that will get kids pumped up and excited and get them elated? The last thing you want to do, you know that you've lost this battle when a kid walks out of the room. Kid goes and just sneaks out. Why did they do that? I don't think it's worth sticking around, right? If you are pumping it up about how amazing this is and how amazing it's going to be throughout the morning, that will keep that from happening. Nobody ever leaves a rock concert before it starts. They don't. Why? Because there's all this anticipation. And what do you hear people say? Man, I can't wait. It's going to be so awesome. You know? Like, seriously, that's what people do. And the more that is said, the more the anticipation builds. And the more that the anticipation builds, the more the energy builds. The more the energy builds, the more excited people are to be a part of it. And the less likely they are to bail out. And here's the thing. God is present in our ministry. God is present. Through the worship, through the teaching, through the discussion times, through all of these elements, God's present. And if that doesn't get us excited, we need to start asking ourselves some deeper questions. And it should break our hearts when we see a kid walk out because they aren't interested in God. (10:45), get a countdown going. The focus on the service is growth. We had that focus on equipping during our warm-up meeting. We had the focus on relationship after that. And then when it gets to the service, we're ready to pound growth. Specifically, spiritual growth. 3 things that we want to create high impact here. Authentic worship. Notice that I use the word authentic. There are certain songs that are meant to be high energy, jump up and down, shake your fist in the air, it's exciting, like that, right? That's the type of energy you want. And that's authentic and that's genuine for certain songs, because certain songs, that's what they demand, that's what they ask, you know? Some songs don't ask for that. So make sure that you are leading in what it means to be authentic and genuine to our students. If it's a slow song, there's no reason to be, drawing attention to something else. Definitely we don't want to draw attention away from the worship, But even if you're not drawing attention away from the worship, sometimes we are drawing attention away from the purpose, right? So how do we use our energy to drive the purpose of that given song during our worship time? Number 2, dynamic teaching. We believe that teaching in junior high is not necessarily a sermon. Okay? That's no news to you. We believe that it needs to be dynamic. For some settings, a sermon is dynamic. But for a junior high kid, that's not necessarily the case. That's why we utilize video clips. That's why we make the teaching pieces very short. That's why we tend to focus on 1 or 2 points. One really point every day. That's really what we're doing. One big point. What was today? I will something?
I will believe what God says about me. I'm new.
I will believe what God says about me. I'm new. You get that one statement, that one point, right? And we believe that 1 point strongly delivered is much better than 10 points mediocre, right? One big point pounding away. The third thing is relevant discussion. The discussion time that you have with kids is the greatest teaching opportunity. Here's the thing that's cool about this as a life group leader. You don't have to have a lick of theological knowledge to be able to teach in this setting. I'm serious. Kids can walk away with the deepest spiritual truths, and all you did was set up a discussion. Educators have found, here's the thing, sometimes we can be critical and go, but that's not very deep. We're not going into big, $5 words, and we're not, saying all these things. We're not pulling up Greek Bibles and stuff, and people will say things like that. But here's what I want to say. Educators have proven that discussion is the absolute best way for a person to learn. It's in conversation that you remember things. So if you're discussing around a point, it's going to be more effective. And if we want our students' minds to be changed, for their hearts to be changed, we've got to give them an opportunity to discuss around the topic. With a junior high kid, deep for them is not going to be deep for you. Okay? You are going to want to talk about this gritty issue, High school students, you guys are going to want to talk about things that our junior high students, they're not there yet, right? But find out what's deep for your group. Find out how deep they can go. And then just challenge them just a little bit more. Not too much, you don't want to go over their heads. But challenge them just a little bit more. All right, you know that you've won during the weekends if you've done these 5 things. Number 1, you're on time. Be on time. That's a win. Number 2, you maximize the hang time. You maximized it. You said, I got 30 minutes and I'm not going to waste it. Number 3, you focus the energy. You're the person that says, you know what? During this slower, reflective song, I'm going to be worshipful, genuine, and reflective. Or during this hangout time, I'm going to spend as much time as I can building up energy with these kids and doing as much as I can to build a relationship, right? You focus the energy, you drive it. Number 4, you maintain the 50-50 rule. The 50-50 rule is this. You are not 100% authority figure. You are not the boss. Okay? Please do not boss around kids. It is the worst way to build a relationship. Okay? You're not their teacher at school. You're not the principal. Okay? You are an authority figure, so they do owe you that. But you're not 100% authority. You're also not 100% buddy. You're not 100% friend. You're 50% friend and 50% authority figure. You need to find that balance, okay? Where do you need to both demand respect but also build relationship, okay? That's the 50-50 principle. Number 5, be orange. Remember what we were talking about? The church and the family working together? Meet their parents. I know this is intimidating, especially for you high school students sometimes. Meet the parents. When that kid comes in the room, introduce yourself. It's really important for that parent, and it will give them a ton of confidence to know that they've met you. It will. Pitfalls. Here are 5 pitfalls. Number 1, being unaware. Unaware of where we are in the service. Unaware of what game we're doing because you weren't there during the warm-up time. Unaware of what the purpose of this time is. Unaware or unprepared in any way. Okay? Try not to be unaware. Number 2, counseling opposite gender kids. That's a pitfall. Boys counsel boys, girls counsel girls. That's our rule. And it will stay that way. That means that if, say, a parent needs help with their kid, and that kid is a female leader needs to be discussing that with that parent. Not a male leader. And same goes the other way around. Got it? And that's the same with the kid. Okay? Number 3. And here's the thing too, real quick on that. Be aware of that. Just be aware. A parent might come and ask you a question. Doesn't mean that you have to be the person to answer it. Just go, you know what? Hey, I know your son's leader. Let me go introduce you to him. Or hey, I know your daughter's leader. Let me go introduce you to her. That's a great way to do it. And if it's something crazy out of the ordinary and you just don't know how to deal with it, come to me and talk to me or Danny. We'll help you work through it. Okay? Number 3, the third pitfall, forgetting the No Child Left Behind Act. Okay, in our ministry, this means that kid that's sitting in the back of the room, in the corner. Or during worship, it's the kid that just decides to just stay seated in the couch, and while everybody else is jumping up and, participating. Doesn't mean you force them. Never force, but invite. Always invite, okay? Make sure that kid doesn't just sit there without ever being invited. Talking to each other. That's a pitfall, particularly during the hang time and the worship time. What I mean is this. We're not here for each other. We're not here to hang out with each other. We can hang out all the time, just not during this time, We're here to hang out with kids. We're here to be with them. We're here to change lives. We're here to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And so if we're talking to each other the whole time, then guess who we're not talking to? The kids. Yeah, this is about the kids.
I would challenge you guys, particularly during the worship too, to find your students and make it about them. And because it's very easy to group up with people you're comfortable with, especially during worship where it's such an open time. Find your students. Make them your priority.
Yeah. Number 5, forgetting orange. Number 5 is forgetting orange. You know why I put that? I said a win is remembering orange. Pitfall is forgetting orange. The reason why I said that is because we are all about orange. We got to make sure that that's always at the forefront, right? Here's a resource for you guys. We'll pull it up. I think we got a picture of it. There's a book called Church Marketing 101. It's actually not about marketing. Okay, just for the record, so you know this. What this book is about what is my role in making church an amazing experience for someone else? What's my role in that? That's what he talks about. And Richard Rising is a great author, and I read this book and it changed my view. You know, what he's pointing out is the reason why so many people do fade away from the church. And so this is a great book to look at. Okay, if you want to look into how we can make that weekend experience better. Okay. All right, that's the end of that piece, and then
we're going to talk about follow-up. We're talking about some new things that you guys are going to be responsible for. This is going to be one of them. Follow-up is huge, and it's something that we really want to make important. The purpose of follow-up is to close the back door. What do I mean by that? I mean by kids come in the front door, and then they get greeted and everything's happy, and what happens is they go out the back door because the back door is left open. So we want to close that, and we want to make it so they come back. We are going to be starting to use a new resource. It's called High Task. Each of you will be getting an invite to it. Phil should be pulling it up real quickly. I'm just going to kind of quickly walk you through this. It's really easy to use.
All of the adult leaders are already on it.
Okay, all of you. Okay, awesome. That's good. Super easy to use. I'm just going to walk you through a couple quick things real quick. Show you a couple things. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us later. Is coming, not coming? Still waiting? Ah, there it is. Awesome. Cool. This is High Task. What you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and log in with your username and password. Pretty simple. You should all have one if you are an adult leader. And then you hit sign in.
See, there is a mobile version. If you have an iPhone.
If you have an iPhone or an iPad, there is a mobile version of this. I have not used it, but I hear it's sweet. So that's convenient. If you have an iPhone, you can download it on that, and that's awesome. I also heard that they were making an Android version. It just hasn't happened yet, so that'll be sweet. This is High Task. It's super simple. You have all this stuff up top. Basically, your help, your search, your settings. You can change your settings, everything like that.
You may only see, you probably will only see the part that says assigned to me. Okay?
Yep, exactly. So for instance, there's one assigned to me, turn big faith notes into Phil. And what will happen is, so when you go through and you do that, you'll have, High Task sends an email to you every time you get a task. So when we assign you a task, you'll get an email saying, hey, cool, you have a thing on High Task, go look at it. So then you go to High Task and you see this. See there's on the top you have when it was assigned, when it was modified, and then there should be an ending date. If you look right at the top, it was assigned on the 10th, and it's due 11/10. So assigned 10/10 and it's due 11/10. So that is your end date. So that's important because we really want you guys to be.
In other words, that's a due date, right?
It's your due date. So
hey
what
guys,
you do?
hey, real quick, man.
Sure.
This is not going to be something that's legalistic. Don't go, oh my gosh, but what if I miss the due date? Oh my gosh, help me. You know, do your very best. Okay? The adult leader is going to be the primary person responsible for these. Okay? Student leaders, your job is to help. Okay? So your adult leader may actually hand off some of this stuff to you, right? And that's fine. Go ahead.
So here's the thing. When you finish that task, please, there's a checkbox right there on the left that you can see. Check it off. Please check it off, because if you don't, then it starts sending us stuff saying, hey, they haven't done this yet. And so then we're calling you going, hey, do your stuff. Dalton Davis had like 6 of them the other day. And we yelled at him for it. So, but it wasn't that he hadn't done it, it's just that he hadn't checked it off. So that's pretty much it. It's super simple.
And what's he going to say? Do we know?
Oh, when you check it off, what will happen is it'll just put a nice line through it. So, go down to mine, Phil.
Email reminders too.
Here's what it'll do. You'll see an item.
See, that's exactly what it'll do right here. It'll have a little checkbox and it'll have a nice little line through it.
All right. In your email, you'll get this task. It'll say this has been assigned to you. You go on the website, you open up the task. There's a little notes section inside. Like when you click on the task, it'll open up that stuff that he was just showing, you know, where it had the due date and all that stuff. There's also a little notes section. It'll only show up if we actually put notes in there. that'll have things like, these are the types of assignments you're going to get. Hey, you had a new student, Roger Farrell. I don't know, whatever. Call Roger. His number is yada, 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 yada. If you can't get a hold of my phone, email him. Here's his email. His parents' names are Brenda and John. That's important. You call Roger, Brenda answers the phone. Hey, Brenda, this is Dalton. Hey, I just wanted to call because we had Roger in our group yesterday at church, and I just wanted to say we were so glad to have him. That's it. That's simple. Brenda goes, oh my gosh, thank you so much. We've been visiting all these different churches. Nobody's ever actually done something like this. He actually called me. And not just somebody at the church, the actual group leader called me. That's a big deal. It's a major, major deal.
Something huge about that, if you can, talk to the student and the parent. This is all about Orange. If you talk to the parent, or say the student answers and you're like, hey man, thanks for coming. Dude, I'm so happy to see you. Assume they're coming back. Don't say, well, hope you come back next Sunday. Go, hey, see you next Sunday. Be positive. Assume they're coming back. Assume they had a great time. And if you, after you talk to them, ask to talk to their parents. Be like, hey, I just want to talk to your mom and let them know, or whatever, or your dad, and talk to their parents too. Be Orange. It's huge because just like we were saying, you want to build trust with the parent. Let them know who you are. Keep them in the loop, you know. And the truth is, then they're going to love you for it. And it makes your job so much easier. So that's pretty much high task. It's pretty much simple. We're going to go ahead and move on to the 5 wins and pitfalls of follow-up. Begin on Sunday. Don't be the person who introduce yourself and meet the kid on Sunday. Don't call them during the middle of the week and have no idea who they are. I mean, it makes it awkward, right? Because you're like, hey, my name's Danny. I was your group leader. And they're like, who are you? Begin on Sunday. Introduce yourself. Make sure you meet them. That's huge. Second one, read your email. I know some of you don't check your emails very often. Start checking them once a week. It's not that much. Please do it. It's huge. It makes our lives easier. And it'll make yours easier too. 3, act quickly. We talked earlier about how the longer you wait, the more awkward it is. It's like standing with somebody in an elevator. You're like, do I say hi? Do I not? Same thing. Act quickly. The quicker you do it, the easier it is. 4, a win. Your student comes back. That's awesome. Sometimes they're not always going to come back. We have a lot of students that just come. They're staying with their grandparents or whatever. But if your students come back, that's a win. Number 5. Be Orange. Talk to the parents. Orange, 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 orange. So we're going to go through a couple pitfalls. The first pitfall is creating awkwardness. You know, having that mid-call in the middle of the week and they not know who you are, it's a little awkward. So just be careful of that. You know, sometimes there's no way to help it, but try and avoid it if you can. 2, not following through. Not doing it, that's a pitfall. If you don't do it, there's no way that it doesn't get done. So make sure you do it. Number 3, waiting too long. Like I said, the longer you wait, the harder it is. Number 4, being inaccessible. If we can't get a hold of you, either by email or phone, or you just don't check high task or anything, this isn't going to work. So be accessible. And last, forgetting Orange is a pitfall. Orange, orange, orange. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to move on to another new thing. Contact work is what we call it. That's the church term. And I'm going to let Brian take over.
All right. Contact work. Contact work is the kind of second thing that we want to kind of throw into what it means to be a life group leader in Revolve. Oh, did you ever hit what the...
Oh, I didn't. I missed. I'm sorry.
Your resource that we want to point you to for follow-up is a book called Fusion by a guy named Nelson Searcy. He actually talks about everything from when a person first pulls into the parking lot to the time that they get home. How do you make that experience amazing? And so a lot of it's about follow-up, and a lot of it's about just making that first experience great. Okay. All right. we're going to go into contact work. Contact work is huge, and here's why. And this is probably the biggest thing that is changing in terms of the role of a life group leader in Revolve. You need to actually contact your students, but not just contact your students by phone. You need to actually contact them in person, right? Why? Because they need to know that you care more about them than just to, you care enough about them to spend more time with them than just at church, right? And this is what we call the be with factor. Remember the be with factor. The more you are with a student, the more you earn the right to be heard in their life. Be with them. Find ways to be with them outside of church. Okay? Remember that problem, 40 versus 3,000? We get 40 hours. Parents get 3,000 hours. We need to tip the scales. We need to turn that 40 into a much higher number. Okay? How much time you spend with a student really, really matters. And so if you can spend time with them outside of church on Sunday, that gives you huge opportunities to be able to create teachable moments and to disciple them. Remember what the purpose of a life group leader is? Does anybody remember? To do what? Disciple through relationship. Very good. Disciple through relationship. And that relationship is built very well if you can spend extra time with them. Okay? All right, I'm going to hit the wins. 5 wins when it comes to contact work. Number 1, get and give contact info. Get the info from your students. Get their phone numbers, get their emails, get their parents' phone numbers and emails. Get it, okay? Before you leave here, adult leaders, I have a list of every student that's been in your group over the last 6 months that's been put into our database. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to take a look at that, and actually if you see any errors, let me know. But I'm going to give you that list, okay? Get that info. The other thing is, JR did, this is awesome. JR is like, here's my phone number. Throw it on the table in front of the kids. That's awesome. That's great. Make yourself available to them. Tell them, hey, look, if you ever want to call me, do it. I want to be that person that you call. You know you won when that kid called you in the midst of a crisis. You know you did. Number 2, contact your students once a week. Contact them once a week. That could just be a text message. That could be through Facebook. Could be in person. It'd be really cool if that was in person, you know? I mean, that's like a whole different level, right? But yeah, contact them somehow. And literally, honestly, and sometimes I've seen people that get stressed out over this one. Oh my gosh, I don't have time to do that. Seriously, it takes 5 minutes to whip up a text, send it out to all your group members. And just be like, hey, how you doing? I was just thinking about you, you know? And just start conversations, you know? It's a great thing to do. Number 3, have a once a month gathering outside of church. Outside of church. Get with your kids outside of church. Okay? We already create events. We'll talk about that in a moment. We already create events. Those are for you. Those are really not for our students. They're for you. I mean, they are for our students, but they're for you to be able to create that experience and to build that relationship, right? So, but what I want to encourage you to do is do things like, hey, this cool movie's coming out. Let's all go, you know, and call them all up and go to that movie, you know? Or, you know, I've seen girls groups go to Hawk Nelson concerts. I've seen, you know, guys groups go to monster truck racing. You know, I've seen guys just get a bunch of guns and go out shooting. I'm not sure if that's always the best idea, but yeah. So, yeah, go quadding, go hiking, go camping, go just have kids over and watch a movie at your house. Bring them over and just hang out. Don't even do anything. Just be like, hey, we're all going to meet at my house. We're going to hang out, eat snacks, and talk. And, you know?
If you
girls having sewing days, craft days.
Whoa.
So,
if you want,
not all girls will do sewing days, but all boys won't. So,
that's not true. If you want an easy one to start with, truthfully, you want an easy one to start with. Find out their sporting events or their plays or whatever they're in. Is it? Oh, never mind. I'm just
That's later.
I lied.
Do an event with your group that they can all be a part of. Okay. And then last, be what?
At church?
Orange.
Be orange.
Oh.
You should be predictable by now. Be orange. Work with the parents. When it does come time to doing a movie outing or something like that, be orange. Talk to their parents. Okay? Matter of fact, always talk to their parents if you can possibly help it. You want to get a bunch of junior high kids out to go to a movie? You want that to fail? Talk to only the kids. The reason why I say that is because they'll be like, yeah, that's cool. And then you'll never get a phone call back. Nothing will ever happen because they're going to go start playing Halo or Call of Duty, and they'll just sit there and play and forget to ever talk to their parents. Just talk to their parents and be like, hey, we're going to be doing this thing. The parents will go, awesome. The parents will be the one to come over, hey, it's 6:30, are you going to go? Oh, yeah. You know, because these kids are ADD. Okay, so if you want this to be good, talk to their parents. Okay, be orange.
Sorry to talk about it and we skipped it before.
Go to and be at events. Number 4. Go to and be at events. Okay, that's the events that we do as a ministry. Okay? When we do events as a ministry, 90% of our events are relational in nature. Meaning, these are events built for you, the life group leader, to build relationships with your students. Okay? So we'll do cookout thing or overnight, event, laser tag, which is coming up in a month. Okay? So these types of events, go to and be at as many of those events as possible. It's a great opportunity to build relationships. Okay? We build our events around building relationships. Remember that. So if you go, I don't know why we don't do things where we can hang out with kids. I don't know why. I've heard people do that. I'm like, every month we're doing something for you, and you're never there, So if you're there, that's your great opportunity to hang out, build relationships, and disciple kids. Okay?
I'm gonna jump in real quick. Also, if you want to earn respect very quickly, find out about their sporting events and their plays and stuff like that, and show up there.
That's later. All
Is
that
it?
stuff is later.
I
Yes.
thought that was
all
now.
that stuff is later. All that stuff is later. I said earlier you were asking. That's info. That's info.
Oh, is it?
Okay, here's a person who does all of this stuff well. I'm gonna embarrass him again. JR. JR is a person who, JR is a quirky guy, right? I'm not offending him. JR is a quirky guy, but JR is a guy who, he's not as young and cool and hip as some of you are, But here's what JR does. He grinds out relationships. I use that word intentionally. JR is a guy who says, you know what? I may not be as cool as Levi, but you know what? I'm going to be here every Sunday with our kids. I'm going to be there when they walk in the door. I'm going to say hello to them. I'm going to hang out with them, and we're going to be playing games together. I'm going to be goofy. I'm not going to lay off. I'm going to keep going at it until I build relationships and until they understand that I'm there for them. I'm going to be at that event, and you know what? I'm going to find ways to get with my students, and we're going to do things together because I'm going to build those relationships. And I don't have to be, and you don't have to be, the coolest, hippest, awesomest person, the most outgoing person, the most popular person to make an impact in the life of a junior high student. You just need to be there. That's all you need to do. Be there. And then be there again. And then be there again. And then be there again. And show them that they are important enough to you to show up. Okay? That's how you're going to do it. And JR's great at that. So, alright, pitfalls. Here are some pitfalls when it comes to contact work. Number 1, one-on-one situations. Stay out of one-on-one situations. What I mean is, don't ever pick up a kid and drive them alone anywhere. And I don't care how good your intentions are. Don't do it. And I don't care if it's a person of the same gender or the opposite gender or anything that is so against policy and honestly, that is a huge strike. And here's why. Because the scriptures tell us to live above reproach. to never give any reason, not even a shadow, to give somebody some sort of ammo to shoot at your integrity. You are a person, every one of you, I have conviction and I have confidence that you have integrity and you have the right intentions, but it takes one accusation. It takes one-on-one situation. That's all it takes. And then it all gets taken away. And let me tell you, it doesn't matter if it's proven or not. If that gets damaged, it may cost you your position. Okay? You guys got that? Number 2, seeing your kids only on Sunday morning. This has never been a pitfall before today. We're saying this is a new vision. Okay? From now on, if you only see your kids on Sunday, that's a pitfall. Find ways to see them at other times. Okay? Number 3, not asking questions. Ask questions. Find out about them. And ask questions about them. Ask questions about what they want, what they're interested in. Ask questions about what a kid is actually wanting to do in life. Ask them what they love to do, how school's going, how that relationship is, how that breakup was. You know, all that kind of, ask them questions about them. Keep the conversation off of you and on them, okay, as much as you possibly can. Number 4, not gathering intel. Okay, one of your best bets, one of your best tools is get information, get intel. What I mean by that is, what do people do in battle? When we say gathering intel, what are they doing? They're finding out information. Yeah, they're finding out information. Get information on your students. Ask them, hey, so you play football? Can I get your schedule? Oh, no way, you're in the school play? When is it? What time? I'm coming. Get that information. Call their parents. Say, hey, I heard about this such and such thing. Do you mind if I come? I'd love to be able to come and just cheer Johnny on. You know? Find out. Find out where they go to school. Find out when their lunchtime is. Ask them if their school allows people to come and visit. And if you're a high school student and you got like a half day and the junior high school doesn't, or you're in a different school district, it's a cool thing to do on a half day. Go hang out with one of your junior high kids. They will flip out. Oh my gosh, they'll flip out. They're like, oh my gosh, I have a high school friend. See, look at me, I got a high school friend. You know, that's what they're going to do because you actually took that time, and you will earn points big time with those kids. You will. Gather intel. Okay? Get intel on your kids. Don't be creepy about that. Okay. Number 5. What's the last pitfall? Forgetting orange. Always remember the parents. Always. Remember that your ministry to a student is as much to the parent as it is to the student. And, this isn't going to surprise you, I don't think. Here's the resource I want you guys to get. This is, if you didn't get any of the resources, you got this one? The Be With Factor by a guy named Bo Shears. Yes, that's how you say it, even though it's spelled Boshers. Bo Shears. The Be With Factor. B-O-S-H-E-R-S. The Be With Factor. This is a great book that talks about this concept. The more time you spend with a student, the more you're going to earn the right to be heard. Okay? Now, here's the deal. I know that sometimes it can be a little intimidating.